In this video, we're going to answer some of our community questions. So let's get into it. Hi Cephas, how old are you and have you ever played classical music? Okay, it's a good start. I am 32 years old. Have I played classical music? I had classical piano lessons when I was 4 years old, and then from that time until about 6 years, I did 4 grades, and that was classical piano, so I guess I've played classical music. I think the kind of music I make now has some inspired by classical sounds. How do you incorporate God into your music with no words? Any artist that creates something, if they're intentional about it, can express God and beauty and truth in their work. I think how is very subjective. I think art embodies beauty and truth. I think that's at the core of the universe. So if you want to then make that obvious through how you make art, and then you get into the function of art, what is that art enabling in someone that's listening to it or experiencing it? And if it brings them good things, and I think there's elements of, God in it. If it's encouraging evil, and if it's encouraging values such as selfish ambitions, gluttony, pride, hate, other evil things, then I think something like that's not incorporating God. So I think as people who experience art, we tend to engage with a piece of art with our own filters, which is fine. The subjective experience is true. If you want to experience art for what it truly is, you need to get to know the artist and the context in which they made that piece of art. So I think this is a very philosophical question, so it's quite difficult to answer in a short space, but I would put it down to incorporating God is down to the artist and down to the conditions in which the person experiencing the piece of art. Yeah. Love your work. Are we related? I'm from Chennai and we share the same family name. Okay, I'm also from Chennai, and my family name, Azariah, I'd say it's quite rare. So potentially, I'll speak to my dad and let you know, I suppose. Someone says world peace, ? That's a question, and it's also a fair request, I suppose, in the world we live in today. I would also love world peace. Just put your weapons down. Simple as that. Whoever you are, wherever you are in the world, put your weapons down. Without world peace. Will you be doing a tour in the USA in 2025? Would love to see that church set out here. Wow, it's very kind of you. I would love to do a USA tour in 2025. Whether that's going to happen or not, I really don't know. I'm going to go out on a whim and say, really hope so. I really hope so, genuinely. When did the conversion happen from amateur to professional? Okay, I understand what you mean. Probably, doing this as a vocation, as work, so to speak. I will admit that I have had about 8 years of part-time work of all kinds, mostly in coffee and being a barista, working in a coffee roastery, but I've had other jobs as well. It took me that amount of time to hone in on what I wanted to do. I didn't want to jump between, sort of opportunities or types of music work. I didn't want to produce a hip-hop record one day and then, play in a function band the other day and then write a film score the next day. I kind of wanted to narrow down into a lane and build a portfolio just in that lane. So it took me, I left uni at 23, and it took me 7-8 years to figure out what that thing was, and I wanted to build portfolio only in the lane in which I wanted to function in, which was, you know, writing for film and TV and writing ambient neoclassical music. The moment you remove the financial pressure of your creative work, it then opens up space for collaboration. And when you collaborate for a while, suddenly you will have a portfolio that's good enough to then warrant the work that you want. And for me, that took about 8 years, but for you, it might take a lot less time because you might be really good at what you do. It took me a lot of time to forge the craft that I had into something useful, something sensible. So, and I was just happy to go on that journey. Of course, I had so many frustrating moments, and every day there was an opportunity to give up. I had to play the really long game. I also got married at 25/26, so my priorities as an artist and taking that step from, in quotes, part-time or whatever into professional, it had a lot of implications that was more than just a cool thing that I wanted to do with my life. So lots of context there for you. Hope that helps. What would be your dream collaborator on a song/project? I mean, I'd love to write with Oliver Arnolds. I think, if I'm not wrong, he's got a background in drums. So do I. So the type of music that we write is very synonymous to drumming, which is lots of repeated shapes, ostinatos, arpeggios, and then there's the strings and beautiful ambience and maybe even a voice that then has the headline in the songs. So I'd be intrigued to work with him and see how he would produce a song or a project in that sense. Where in India are you from and what languages do you speak? Come to Texas? Yeah, I'd love to come to Texas. Let's see what happens. I'm from a small city called Vellore in Tamil Nadu, which is in South India. I really like it there. I've been quite a few times. I don't get to go as often now, but when I was younger, we used to go as a family. I don't speak too much of my native language. I can speak Tamil a little bit. I know phrases in French and in Italian. Apart from that, all my brain abilities goes into something else. How do you come up with your melodies? Do you usually start on the piano? I love collaborating with people, so I'll bring them a context. I'll bring, say, a cellist or a violinist, a musical context. So I'll write some sounds and some patterns, and almost like I'll create a holding space, and then I'll say, hey, what do you feel? And I will ask myself that question. So what do I feel? So if I wanted to write a synth line or a piano line, I will ask myself, what do I feel? And then I will take that emotion and try and translate that onto the piano or onto the instrument, or the cellist or, you know, the other instrument player will bring their emotions to the table and we'll have a piece of music that way. I think that's how I prefer to work. Did you explore other genres, and when did you decide to focus on neoclassical? No, I didn't explore other genres. I think I always wanted to write this genre of music. The only variation I would say is I do have a bunch of, you know, sync work that I do for film and TV. So it still starts off the same way, but then it's a little bit more dramatic and the breaks and cuts in the music are a lot sharper. So, you know, people can edit and imagine a story within that framework. I wouldn't say I explored other genres of music. It's more that for sync, there's a development of what I do with a much bigger dynamic. Okay, what are your top 5 albums? I'll give you like 5 of my favorites in no particular order. 22 a Million, Bon Iver. Nui by Tony Anderson. 7 by Brooke Ligertwood. John Hopkins, Inside. It's such a stunning project. Exclamation by Lara Samogi. It's the album with just the exclamation mark, the desert sort of background. Yeah, stunning project. Okay, any books you'd recommend? Anything by Austin Kleon, especially the book Show Your Work. My favorite book of all time is The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. Incredible piece of work. I would read it every week if I could. Mind of the Maker by Dorothy Sayers. It's a great book about how you as an artist put yourself in every piece of work that you make. Honestly, it's stunning. rock. Bit more on the philosophical side, but it's quite an easy read. Someone says, where do you get your inspiration from when writing music? Very rarely inspired by people. Personally, I think it's quite an unfair expectation and a weight to place on a human being. So I highly recommend drawing inspiration from something that is as natural and as close to supernatural as possible. So, you know, nature is my first bet. I just draw sound out of being by a lake and some mountains. I think that's what speaks to me the most. Occasionally an instrument, or a particular sound. So sometimes I'll hear a sound and an idea will come out of that. Do you find that ambient music serves as a form of creative escape? Okay, I don't think making ambient music for me is an escape. I understand where the question's coming from, but I would probably say it's more a responsibility for me. My purpose is to help bring peace. Peace to someone's space, peace to someone's inner world, and bring a sense of beauty and clarity to that context. I guess the escape for me is more after I've written a piece of music and I'm pleased with it and I can leave it there, go and make dinner, make some pasta from scratch and have some downtime with my family and friends. That's probably more of an escape for me than writing music. When I'm writing music, I feel like I have something good to offer. What moment on the album for you brings out the most emotional reaction? I'm gonna say Prologue for Winter. That's actually the oldest song on the project. I wrote that at a point after I had a car accident, really bad car accident. And it was 2 weeks before we were moving house. And the emotional chaos that followed that, I was at a mountaintop in terms of emotional distress. I'd peaked. I'm grateful for the peace that I had during that time, which enabled me to take steps that I needed to take, and with the support of my family, get on with those 2 to 3 weeks where we had to move home regardless. The peace was strong enough for me to continue with life. I'm also grateful to God that, you know, that I'm still alive. I wrote Prologue for Winter because I got to a place where, you know, I was content with this reservoir of peace that I had in life, where I can do my utmost best to face the good and the bad and carry on. So A Prologue for Winter was a song about being content and being at peace. Okay, last question. Drop your favorite weeknight meal / comfort meal. Like I said earlier, I love making pasta from scratch, and I think, you know, that is both a therapy session for me and a rewarding sort of activity. I love doing that. It's just making something with your hands, just flour and eggs. Yeah, kneading, rolling it out, creating the shape that you want to create, cooking that with a very simple pasta sauce of some kind. Yeah, that is probably my favorite meal. All right, guys, thank you so much for sending your questions in, and I hope you got a bit of an insight into me as a person. And yeah, we will see you in the next video. Peace.